Welcome to episode 10 of the Pro PA podcast. I'm your host, Prof. G, and today we're tackling pertussis, also known as whooping cough, which is another key topic from the pulmonary infectious disorders section of the PANCE blueprint. This bacterial infection has distinct phases, high-risk populations, and a critical focus on prevention. So let's get started. So first, let's look into the kinder patho. What is pertussis, or whooping cough? Pertussis is a highly contagious bacterial infection caused by the bacteria Bordetella pertussis, which is a gram-negative coccobacillus. This bacteria attaches to the ciliated epithelial cells of the respiratory tract and produces toxins that impair ciliary function and cause inflammation. And for this reason, it leads to classic paroxysmal cough with characteristic whoop sound during inspiration. Now, paroxysmal means you get little clusters of the cough. So cough, 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 and then a whoop at the end. And I can't really mimic it, but I have a few sounds for you to listen to here so that you can recognize it when you are listening to your patients. So the first sound I have for you is a small infant. The second sound I have here for you is an adult with whooping cough. The third sound I have for you here is a severe adult infection with pertussis. All right, so who does this affect? Primarily, pertussis affects infants less than 1 year old who are unvaccinated or incompletely vaccinated. And adolescents and adults can also get pertussis, but often present as prolonged cough with a classic whoop. And most of the time, this is in the unvaccinated population. Now, risk factors can include obviously the lack of immunization or waning immunity. You can also have an exposure to infected individuals, especially in close contact settings like the home, schools, or daycare. So, how do these patients present? Well, this presentation is actually quite specific, and there are actually 3 different phases of pertussis. The first phase is called the catarrhal phase, and this is usually within the first 1 to 2 weeks of the infection. The catarrhal phase is classified by this non-specific URI symptoms like a runny nose, sneezing, mild cough, and a low-grade fever. A pearl about the catarrhal phase is that this phase is often mistaken for a simple cold and is the most contagious phase. Phase 2 is going to be the paroxysmal phase, which usually happens between weeks 2 and 6 of the infection. During this phase, we see severe paroxysmal coughing fits, and they're usually followed by that classic inspiratory whoop. Patients usually present with this post-tussive emesis or vomiting, which is very, very common. So they have this coughing fit, they have the characteristic whoop, and because of the coughing fits, it actually provokes them to vomit. Sometimes you'll actually also see some little petechiae under the eyes just from the recurrent coughing fits and vomiting. These episodes tend to occur most often at night, and they can lead to hypoxia, cyanosis, exhaustion, and this is especially in the infant population. The third phase is the convalescent phase, and this happens from weeks to months after the infection, following the previous 2 phases. So usually during this phase, we see some gradual improvement of symptoms with a decreasing cough, decrease in frequency and severity. And the cough may persist for weeks to months, and it's known as the 100-day cough because it really just lasts for a very long time. In adults and adolescents, they often lack that classic whoop presentation, and they just present with a prolonged persistent cough. So be aware that this might be an abnormal presentation in that population. How do we work up pertussis? Well, like most things that we've seen so far, diagnosis is clinical, and it's based on history and presentation. There are some confirmatory tests that we can do for our patients, including PCR testing, so basically the nasopharyngeal secretions, and this is the gold standard during the early stages. We can also get a CBC, which tends to be pretty nonspecific, but it may show some lymphocytosis, which is a classic finding. Testing is especially important. Testing is especially important for infants and those in close contact with those that have been diagnosed with pertussis. The management for pertussis includes antibiotics. Remember, this is a bacterial infection, and the first line treatment is with macrolides. You can choose whichever macrolide you prefer. Typically, I see azithromycin prescribed, but you can also use clarithromycin or erythromycin, really just macrolides. And if for some reason macrolides are contraindicated, you can also consider using Bactrim as an alternative. Now, antibiotics can reduce the infectivity, but they do not shorten the course once the paroxysmal phase begins. And this is important to note and to be able to educate our patients. We can also suggest some supportive care. So we want to make sure that the patients stay adequately hydrated and that they're having a good nutrition, they're not vomiting too much. We do also want to consider hospitalization for infants with respiratory distress, apnea, or hypoxia. Prevention is going to be key with pertussis, and we have a couple vaccines that can help us with this prevention. We have the DTaP vaccine, so that includes diphtheria, tetanus, and acellular pertussis, and this is the key vaccine for infants and children. We also have the Tdap booster, which is recommended for adolescents. They usually get their booster around 11 to 12 years of age. It's also indicated for pregnant individuals during pregnancy. Usually we give it during weeks, 27 to 36, so the third trimester, and this is to protect the newborns. We also can give it to adults who have not previously received the Tdap booster. Now, book med versus street med. The book med's going to tell us to treat pertussis with a macrolide and emphasize vaccination to prevent outbreaks. The street med, you'll see adults with just a lingering cough, and it's often misdiagnosed as bronchitis or a cold, but definitely need to have that pertussis diagnosis in the back of your mind, especially in unvaccinated individuals. And remember, they don't always have that classic whoop along with those coughing fits. All right, some clinical pearls. Think of the paroxysmal cough, post-tussive emesis. This is pertussis. PCR testing confirms the diagnosis in the early stages, and vaccination is key with the DTaP and the Tdap. It's the most effective prevention strategy. And a little extra tip here is it's the cough, 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 whoop. There it is. Okay, don't forget that. All right, so let's do some quick review questions. Number one, we got a 6-week-old infant presenting with severe paroxysmal coughing fits, post-tussive emesis, and cyanosis. The infant is afebrile and the parents report no vaccinations. What is the most likely diagnosis? Let's think about it. Is it A, RSV bronchiolitis, B, pertussis, C, acute bronchitis, or D, croup? I'll give you just a couple seconds. You shouldn't need much time for this one. If you said B, pertussis, you are right. It makes sense. We're covering the topic now, but I did want you to see kind of what the classic presentation would be in a vignette style. So we see in this patient severe paroxysmal coughing, post-tussive vomiting, and cyanosis in an unvaccinated infant. These are all super classic for pertussis. Question 2 is a 15-year-old adolescent who presents with a persistent dry cough for 3 weeks. There's no fever, and he denies shortness of breath. PCR testing of the nasopharyngeal secretions are positive for Bordetella pertussis. What is the most appropriate first-line treatment? Is it A, azithromycin, B, amoxicillin, C, supportive care only, or D, doxycycline? I'll give you a sec. If you said A, azithromycin, you are right. Remember, macrolides, like azithromycin, are first-line treatment for pertussis to reduce infectivity, and we should always treat patients with a positive pertussis test. All right, to get things wrapped up, I want to thank you for joining me in today's clinical medicine brief on pertussis or whoopee cough. Remember, recognize the 3 phases of pertussis and always suspect it in unvaccinated infants or adolescents with a prolonged cough. Vaccination with the DTaP or Tdap is key to prevention. For more high-yield pulmonary topics, check out my pulmonary module on my YouTube channel, Professor GPAC. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new episode. Also, if you have some PA friends out there, be sure to share this podcast with them so that they can learn too. And as always, this is the Pro PA Podcast, where future pros in medicine are made. I'll see you soon.